What were the mistakes you made in a relationship? Forgetting about myself. Ignoring my feelings. Asking too little out of relationships and being run over a lot. Not expecting much more than sex and conversations. Being taken for granted and letting it happen. Paying too much, neglecting myself. Thinking I was cool for being low maintenance, but I just expected too little. I don't know, I don't want to date again, too much. Not accepting a breakup gracefully and demanding too many explanations. This happened twice with the same person, once at 20 and once again at 21 or 22. Thought could argue him into staying, even though that makes no sense, and why the fuck would I want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with me? Now I'm 27 and can't imagine doing that again. I have more restraint, more self-respect, and more perspective and experience to see when someone is way less invested than I am. For me, I think, I was bad at communication. I just could not express love, and even if I did, it seemed forced. Eventually figured out I don't even have feelings and I left, so that was bad. I was really bad at communicating. I didn't know how to express my thoughts, feelings, needs, etc., and I was really bad at asking him about the same. We ended up acting on I think this is what he'll appreciate rather than just ask the person. I still remember after our divorce, we were talking and he said that he didn't think that we put enough effort into saving the marriage. I told him that for 3 straight months I did everything I could think of and gave it my all. He didn't notice, and I realized that what else saw as effort, he didn't. I have learned to be more aware of really making sure that I understand what makes me happy as well as what makes him happy. Faking my orgasm just to make him feel good. Now he thinks he's the best and won't try anything new. Not getting over my traumas before getting into a relationship. You really don't know how fucked your head and actions can be until you're better and snap the hell out of it. Al always relied on my partners being happy, I forget to make myself happy. Not communicating. I always expected my ex to know what I was feeling. Likewise, I wouldn't speak up for myself when he did something to hurt me. I was a little manipulative at times. Looking back, I cringe, and I am way better at openly communicating with my current so. At the time I was young, 18-19, and didn't know how to communicate. It was my first relationship and first time navigating the things that come along with relationships. This is the same for friendships and romantic relationships. I only realized after a friend explicitly told me I didn't set boundaries at the beginning, let them get away with too much, and then began to resent them. Hard to ever get over resentment once it sets in. Not communicating well and giving space. I have learned so much since going to my psychologists. Some problems aren't fixed in a day, or a week. While demanded them to be. Not speaking my mind, combined by in general not knowing my boundaries or feelings. These things finally came out of my mental freezer, but doing something with just rediscovered feelings is hard. It's sad since my ex would 100% respect them, just did not know how to feel and act upon it. Not realizing my partner needed space to reflect on their actions, and collect their feelings. LD just try to see him when I have free time, not when we both wanted to or had the energy to see each other. I couldn't manage my expectations, and made fantasies in my head about when and what should happen. Now I can see someone for who they are, and I regret not really listening to my ex. We broke up fine a few months ago. Have no contact for a week now. It's weird, but it's nice to have time to think without pressure of someone else, and I can understand him more. I didn't realize I was doing this until I recently saw a thread in our relationship where the man's fiancé was doing what I did and everything clicked. I was doing things for my husband that he didn't expect, want, or ask me to do, and then I would get upset when I felt like he didn't appreciate it. Then when we would get into arguments, I would try to use it against him and say, I do so much for you. I always put you before me. He would argue back, I never asked you to do any of those things, and I would be so hurt when he would say that because to me it was how I showed I loved him and I wanted him to show it back in the same way. Alcoholism. Being more in love with him than he was with me. TW. Mentions of sexual trauma, trying to compensate my guilt for not wanting to have sex with my boyfriend by having sex with him. I have had sex many times when I didn't actually want to. Not because I was coerced or anything, but because I felt like I had to in order for me to be a good girlfriend and wanted his love and affection. He was always very mindful about consent, but I lied about being okay. Now I can't have penetrative sex without bursting out in tears. It sucks a lot. Oh, so many. Some that hurt the other person. Some that hurt me. Some that allows them to hurt me. Some just pursuing a relationship that I knew wasn't going to be the right option. Every failed relationship, even the ones that behave things I did that I regret, ended up being for the better in the long run. Now I am very happily married. I still make mistakes and so does he. But we work through things and I honestly couldn't ask for a better partner in life. I wasn't annoying enough, I should have been less scared of confrontation and fights. I always trusted him and didn't push for an answer hard enough when he said everything was fine, even though my gut told me something was off. Al always understood and would question my actions rather than his. I worked really hard to be a better partner and how he liked me, to the point where I was suppressing my true self, but whenever I needed him to act differently to not hurt my feelings, his answer was, "That's who I am, take it or leave it," which is the relationship equivalent of "my house, my rules," that frustrated me so much as a kid and even more as an adult. Also, I'm pretty sure I let him gaslight me whenever we would fight because he twisted my words so much that I questioned my own intent at times. While he seemed able to read my mind, that wasn't reading, that was manipulating it, paired with a lack of communication from his side. I was always scared and confused, walking on eggshells around him because there was no clear way for me to predict WTF would anger him next. Now I am very aware of anyone who does that to someone else, hopefully to me too. I was young and thought it was best to keep my insecurities and struggles for me, but I could have used the support of a close friend. I would have been more confident and trusted my gut more. I confused understanding where he was coming from with "he's right," but those two are very different things. Al always needed attention. If I decided he wasn't paying enough attention to me, I'd start an argument or I'd pretend to be ill. I don't do that anymore. I suppressed how I felt and tried to play the cool girl because I was scared to be alone and also rejection of my true self. But since I was young, I was still learning to be myself, and this stunted my growth for a period. I didn't set boundaries and was therefore not respected how I wanted to be. I put too much of my time into the relationship and sacrificed my own ambitions. I fooled myself into thinking love is enough and didn't reason with myself that some love is unhealthy and not meant to last. I made excuses for his behavior. Codependency, wanting to change for my partner so they'd like me more, depending on my partner for happiness, loving it when my partners were so insecure that they'd need me, and in my mind, wouldn't leave me, making my relationship my hobby, diminishing my own needs to make the other person happy. It's also embarrassing to think about. Manipulative tendencies / lack of good communication. Blowing problems out of proportion and being ostentatiously hurt so they'd feel bad and give me attention, instead of just communication that I was insecure and was in need of assurance. Putting up with a lot of shit because I was afraid to be alone. Not having the balls to call it quits. I was so clingy to the point that my ex get really concerned for my mental health if we were to break up. I hated the fact that we could only meet in a religious setting where the rules restricted us from showing our affection for each other in a physical way, so I had to rely on words, something I've struggled with since I was young. It ended up with me expecting more from him and him not being able to match my energy. So many. I have emotional regulation issues, childhood trauma, so I'll often get really angry over very little things. I get too wrapped up in it and have said and done things that have really upset my partner and nearly led to a breakup on multiple occasions. I struggle to communicate my feelings or even understand them due to my parents making me suppress emotions growing up, so communication is a big issue. Sometimes I can't even just say I'm angry about. I can become a bit selfish when in bad moods and in the past have made the mistake of resenting my partner for having a perfectly nice, healthy childhood. And also for being depressed despite having a good childhood, I guess because my mental illness is specifically traumagenic. I'm in therapy now, though, so I'm working on applying techniques that prevent these faulty thought processes, and I'm working on stepping back and trying to figure out what's wrong so I can properly communicate the issue without immediately resorting to the harmful mechanisms I was taught growing up. It's tough, but I'm improving. I needed to respect myself more. I've always put more into relationships even when I was starting to become sad. I fall for the fallacy of I am not trying hard enough, even when no one in a healthy working relationship should be trying this hard. And then being passive. I would wait around for signs or poke forever for clues before I'd be honest and admit what was going on with me and how I truly felt. I can imagine someone observing me from the sidelines and just screaming in frustration, LOL.